If you're over 60 and drinking this supposedly healthy beverage every morning, thinking you're doing something good for your body, you need to hear this right now. Because what I'm about to share could explain why you've been experiencing unexplained bloating, irregular digestion, or even that mysterious brain fog that just won't go away. And the worst part? It's sitting in your fridge right now, disguised as something beneficial. I'm Dr. Helen Brooks, a board-certified gastroenterologist with over 20 years of experience treating digestive disorders. Throughout my career, I've seen thousands of patients who were unknowingly sabotaging their gut health with foods they believed were helping them. And today, I'm going to reveal one of the most common culprits that could be silently disrupting your microbiome. But before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I strongly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell so you never miss another health tip designed specifically for you. And please, if you find this information valuable, leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help people just like you take control of their health. Now, let me tell you about Margaret, a 72-year-old retired teacher who came to my office completely frustrated. For nearly 2 years, she'd been dealing with chronic bloating, inconsistent bowel movements, and a constant feeling of discomfort that was affecting her quality of life. She'd tried everything her previous doctors recommended: fiber supplements, probiotics, even eliminating gluten. Nothing worked. During our consultation, I asked her to walk me through her daily routine, including every single thing she ate and drank, and that's when she mentioned it. Every morning, without fail, she started her day with a large glass of cold-pressed fruit juice. The expensive kind, marketed as fresh, organic, and packed with vitamins. She'd been doing this religiously for 3 years, ever since her daughter convinced her it was healthier than coffee. Here's what Margaret didn't know, and what most people don't realize. Even though fruit juice seems natural and healthy, when you strip fruit of its fiber and concentrate its sugars, you're creating a substance that can wreak havoc on your gut bacteria. Your digestive system wasn't designed to handle that amount of concentrated fructose all at once, especially first thing in the morning when your gut is most vulnerable. What happens is this rapid influx of sugar feeds the wrong types of bacteria in your intestines, the ones that produce excess gas and inflammation. Over time, this creates an imbalance in your microbiome, a condition we call dysbiosis. And this imbalance doesn't just cause digestive symptoms. It affects your immune system, your mental clarity, even your mood. When I explained this to Margaret, she was shocked. She'd been spending over $30 a week on these juices, thinking she was investing in her health. But in reality, she was feeding the exact problem she was trying to solve. I put her on a modified eating plan, replacing that morning juice with whole fruits and a protein-rich breakfast. Within 6 weeks, her bloating had decreased by 70%. And within 3 months, she told me she felt like a completely different person. She had energy again, her digestion was regular, and that uncomfortable fullness after meals had vanished. If you're still watching and finding this information helpful, comment a checkmark below to show me you're following along. I love knowing this content is reaching people who need it. But fruit juice isn't the only refrigerator item destroying your gut health without you realizing it. Let me tell you about Robert, a 68-year-old former accountant who prided himself on eating healthy. He'd switched to fat-free yogurt years ago, eating 2 cups every single day because his cardiologist had told him to watch his cholesterol. Robert couldn't understand why. Despite his healthy diet, he was constantly dealing with acid reflux, stomach cramping, and irregular bowel movements. His wife had started sleeping in the guest room because the gas was so severe. When Robert came to see me, I asked him to bring in labels from everything he regularly consumed. And there it was, in his fat-free yogurt, a long list of artificial sweeteners, thickeners, and modified food starches. You see, when manufacturers remove fat from products, they have to replace it with something to maintain texture and taste. And what they use are highly processed additives that your gut bacteria simply cannot process properly. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose, they're not just sweet-tasting chemicals. Research shows they actively alter the composition of your gut microbiome, reducing beneficial bacteria and promoting the growth of bacteria associated with glucose intolerance and metabolic dysfunction. For Robert, this was a revelation. He'd been so focused on reducing fat that he never considered what he was replacing it with. I recommended switching to full-fat plain Greek yogurt with no added ingredients. Just milk and live cultures, nothing else. I also suggested he add his own fresh berries and a small amount of honey if he needed sweetness. The transformation was remarkable. Within 2 weeks, his reflux improved. Within a month, his cramping and gas had reduced significantly. And after 3 months, his wife moved back into their bedroom because the digestive issues that had plagued him for years had essentially resolved. Now, if you thought those were surprising, wait until you hear about the next one. This one affects millions of people, and hardly anyone talks about it. I'm talking about processed deli meats. Turkey, ham, roast beef. Those convenient sliced options that so many people rely on for quick lunches and snacks. Let me share Patricia's story with you. She was a 65-year-old woman who came to my office complaining of severe digestive distress that had been escalating for over a year. She described intense bloating after meals, alternating constipation and diarrhea, and a general feeling of unwellness that she couldn't quite explain. Patricia was meticulous about her diet. She tracked everything she ate, avoided fried foods, and had switched to what she thought were healthier options. Every day for lunch, she'd make herself a sandwich with deli turkey, thinking it was a lean, protein-rich choice. What Patricia didn't realize was that commercial deli meats are loaded with preservatives, particularly nitrates and nitrites, which are added to extend shelf life and maintain that appealing pink color. But here's the problem with these chemicals. When they reach your gut, they interact with your stomach acid and the bacteria in your intestines to form compounds called N-nitroso compounds. These substances are not only potentially harmful to your gut lining, but they also dramatically alter your gut microbiome composition. Additionally, most processed meats contain significant amounts of sodium, often over 600 milligrams per serving, which can disrupt the delicate fluid balance in your digestive tract and contribute to inflammation. I worked with Patricia to eliminate processed meats from her diet and replace them with freshly cooked proteins she'd prepare once or twice a week. Grilled chicken breast, baked salmon, hard-boiled eggs. Simple, whole food proteins without additives or preservatives. The change in her symptoms was nothing short of dramatic. Within 3 weeks, she reported feeling lighter and less bloated. Within 2 months, her bowel movements had normalized for the first time in years. She told me during a follow-up appointment, and I'll never forget this. She said, "Dr. Brooks, I didn't realize how terrible I felt until I started feeling good again. But here's something even more concerning that I need you to understand. Many people are drinking what they believe is a health tonic, but it's actually creating serious digestive problems. I'm talking about kombucha and other fermented beverages that have become incredibly trendy in recent years. Now, before you think I'm against all fermented foods, let me be clear. Traditional fermentation can be beneficial when done properly. But commercial kombucha, especially the sweetened varieties sold in stores, present some unique challenges for many people, particularly those over 60. Let me tell you about Donald, a 70-year-old retired engineer who came to see me with complaints of severe acid reflux, bloating, and what he described as a burning sensation in his stomach that would last for hours after eating. Donald had read online that kombucha was excellent for gut health, so he'd started drinking a bottle every afternoon, thinking it would help his digestion. What he didn't understand was that kombucha is highly acidic, with a pH often between 2.5 and 3.5, almost as acidic as vinegar. For someone like Donald, who had age-related changes in his stomach lining and decreased production of protective mucus, this daily acid bath was causing significant irritation and inflammation. Additionally, the active yeasts and bacteria in kombucha can cause excessive gas production in people whose gut microbiomes aren't prepared to handle that sudden influx of microorganisms. When I suggested Donald stop the kombucha for 4 weeks and focus instead on eating naturally fermented foods like sauerkraut in small amounts, his symptoms improved dramatically. The burning sensation disappeared within 10 days, and his bloating reduced significantly within 3 weeks. He learned an important lesson. Just because something is marketed as healthy doesn't mean it's right for your individual digestive system. If you're still with me, and I hope you are because what's coming next is crucial, drop a like on this video to help more people discover this information. It truly makes a difference in helping me reach others who need to hear this. Now, let's talk about something that almost everyone has in their refrigerator. Low-fat salad dressings. They seem like the perfect choice, right? You're eating a salad, trying to be healthy, and you opt for the low-fat or fat-free dressing instead of the full-fat version. But this seemingly smart choice could be one of the worst things you're doing to your gut. I treated a woman named Eleanor, 69 years old, who was dedicated to eating salads for lunch every single day. She was careful to use fat-free ranch dressing, sometimes going through 2 or 3 bottles per week because she loved her salads. But Eleanor was miserable. She had constant bloating, severe gas that was embarrassing in social situations, and she'd developed what she called salad stomach, where she'd feel uncomfortably full and distended for hours after eating. She couldn't understand why something so healthy was making her feel so awful. When we examined the ingredients in her fat-free dressing, it was shocking. The first 4 ingredients after water were sugar, corn syrup, modified food starch, and maltodextrin, all forms of processed carbohydrates and sugars. Then came a list of thickeners, gums, and preservatives I needed to look up to even understand. You see, fat carries flavor, and when manufacturers remove it, they have to compensate with sugar and chemicals to make the product palatable. These additives are terrible for your gut bacteria. Gums like xanthan gum and guar gum can cause significant bloating and discomfort, especially when consumed in large amounts. And the sugar content feeds the wrong types of bacteria, creating that same dysbiosis we talked about earlier. I suggested Eleanor switch to a simple dressing made from extra virgin olive oil, vinegar, and herbs. She was skeptical at first because she'd been conditioned to fear fat. But I explained that healthy fats are actually essential for absorbing the nutrients from her vegetables and for maintaining a healthy gut lining. Within 2 weeks, her salad stomach had disappeared. Within a month, she told me she had more energy and felt less bloated than she had in years. And interestingly, even though she was consuming more calories from the olive oil, she actually lost 4 pounds because her digestion had improved so dramatically. But wait, there's another refrigerator staple that's even more deceptive, and this one truly surprised me when I first started researching it years ago. Pre-washed, pre-cut salad mixes. You know the ones, those convenient plastic containers or bags with mixed greens that are ready to eat right out of the package. They seem like the ultimate healthy convenience food, right? Let me tell you about Thomas, a 73-year-old former teacher who took pride in eating vegetables daily. He'd buy those pre-washed spring mix containers and eat them with almost every meal. But Thomas had developed chronic diarrhea that his previous doctor had dismissed as irritable bowel syndrome. He'd tried various medications with no success, and was beginning to think he'd just have to live with this condition for the rest of his life. During our consultation, I asked detailed questions about his food preparation methods. When he mentioned the pre-washed salads, something clicked. You see, these products are treated with sanitizing washes that contain chlorine compounds to kill bacteria and extend shelf life. While these chemicals are considered safe at approved levels, they don't just kill harmful bacteria. They can also affect the beneficial bacteria in your gut when consumed regularly. Additionally, the cutting and processing of these greens releases compounds that can oxidize and become harder for sensitive digestive systems to process. And because the greens are stored in modified atmosphere packaging, they can develop higher levels of certain compounds that may trigger digestive symptoms in susceptible individuals. I suggested Thomas switch to buying whole heads of lettuce and washing them himself at home with just water. It seemed too simple to work, but he was willing to try anything. Within 3 weeks, his diarrhea episodes had decreased by half. Within 2 months, they'd become occasional rather than daily. He couldn't believe that something he thought was helping him stay healthy was actually causing his primary health complaint. The lesson here is that convenience often comes at a cost, and sometimes that cost is paid by your digestive system. Now, I need to address something that affects many people but is rarely discussed in mainstream health conversations. Flavored sparkling water. It seems so innocent. It's just water with bubbles and natural flavors, right? No sugar, no calories. Surely it can't be harmful. But I'm going to tell you why this popular beverage could be sabotaging your gut health. I saw a patient named Barbara, 67 years old, who was experiencing severe bloating and abdominal discomfort that had been progressively worsening for about 18 months. She'd tried elimination diets, probiotics, and various supplements with minimal improvement. During our nutritional assessment, she mentioned that she'd completely stopped drinking regular water about 2 years ago, and now exclusively drank flavored sparkling water. She'd go through 6 to 8 cans per day, thinking she was making a healthy choice by staying hydrated without consuming sugary sodas. Here's what I explained to Barbara. First, the carbonation itself can cause significant bloating and gas, especially when consumed in large quantities. Those bubbles don't just disappear. They accumulate in your digestive tract and can cause discomfort and distension. Second, and this is crucial, those natural flavors listed on the label aren't as natural as you might think. They're chemical compounds, sometimes dozens of them, designed to mimic fruit flavors. While they're generally recognized as safe, many people's digestive systems react poorly to these synthetic flavor compounds. And third, the acidity from carbonation combined with citric acid, which is added to many of these drinks, can disrupt your stomach's pH balance and potentially damage the protective lining of your digestive tract over time. I suggested Barbara gradually reduce her sparkling water intake and replace it with regular filtered water, perhaps with fresh lemon or cucumber for flavor. She could still have 1 or 2 sparkling waters per day, but not as her primary source of hydration. The improvement was remarkable. Within 4 weeks, her bloating had decreased significantly. Within 8 weeks, she reported feeling more comfortable after meals than she had in nearly 2 years. She still enjoys sparkling water occasionally, but now she understands that moderation is key and that her body needs regular still water to function optimally. If this information is resonating with you, if you're starting to recognize some of these patterns in your own life, please engage with this video. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your engagement helps this crucial information reach more people who are suffering unnecessarily. Let me share one more case that really drives home how interconnected our food choices and gut health truly are. This involves something that I bet at least half of you have in your refrigerator right now: margarine or butter substitutes. For decades, we were told that margarine was healthier than butter, that we should avoid saturated fat at all costs. And millions of people made the switch, thinking they were protecting their hearts. But what we didn't understand then, and what we're only now fully appreciating, is how these processed spreads affect your digestive health. I treated a gentleman named Harold, 71 years old, who had been struggling with chronic inflammation, digestive upset, and what he described as a constant feeling of unwellness. He'd been using margarine exclusively for over 30 years, spreading it on his morning toast, using it to cook vegetables, even stirring it into his oatmeal. He was doing everything his doctor had told him to do to reduce his cholesterol, but he felt terrible. When we discussed margarine and its effects on gut health, Harold was skeptical. How could something so widely recommended be harmful? Here's what I explained. Most margarines and butter substitutes are made with highly processed vegetable oils that have been chemically altered through a process called partial hydrogenation. This process creates trans fats, which we now know are terrible for both cardiovascular and digestive health. Even margarines that claim to be trans fat-free often contain small amounts that don't have to be listed on the label due to regulatory loopholes. Additionally, these products contain emulsifiers, stabilizers, and artificial flavors that can irritate the gut lining and alter the microbiome composition. I suggested Harold switch to real butter, preferably from grass-fed cows, and use it in moderation. He was nervous about this change, worried about his cholesterol levels. But I assured him we'd monitor his blood work closely. What happened next amazed both of us. Not only did his digestive symptoms improve significantly within 6 weeks, but his cholesterol levels actually stayed stable. His HDL, the good cholesterol, increased slightly. He had more energy, less inflammation, and he told me that food tasted better than it had in decades. This experience taught him that sometimes the old ways, the natural ways, are better than the processed alternatives we've been convinced are improvements. Here's what I need you to understand from all these stories. Your gut health affects everything. Your immune system, your mood, your energy levels, your ability to absorb nutrients, even your cognitive function. And many of the foods that we've been told are healthy, or that seem convenient and harmless, are actually working against us. The common thread in all these cases is processing. The more a food has been altered from its natural state, the more likely it is to cause problems in your digestive system. So what should you do with this information? First, I want you to go to your refrigerator right now. Well, maybe after you finish watching this video and look at the foods you consume regularly. Read the ingredient labels. If you see more than 5 ingredients, or if you can't pronounce most of the ingredients, that's a red flag. Second, start replacing processed items with whole food alternatives. Instead of fruit juice, eat whole fruit. Instead of fat-free yogurt with additives, choose full-fat plain yogurt. Instead of deli meats, cook your own proteins. Instead of pre-washed salads, buy whole vegetables and prepare them yourself. I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like a lot of work. And you're right, it does require more effort than grabbing processed, convenient options. But I need you to understand something. The discomfort, the bloating, the irregular digestion, The lack of energy you're experiencing, that's also taking effort. It's taking effort to manage symptoms, to make yourself comfortable, to work around your digestive issues. The question isn't whether you'll put in effort. The question is whether you'll put effort into causing problems or solving them. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to overhaul your entire diet overnight. That's overwhelming and usually unsustainable. Start with one change. Pick the item from this video that resonated most with you, the one that made you think, oh no, I do that. Replace that one thing with a whole food alternative. Give it 4 to 6 weeks and pay attention to how you feel. I think you'll be surprised at the difference one simple change can make. Also, and this is important, please don't interpret anything I've said today as a recommendation to avoid medical care or to diagnose yourself. If you're experiencing persistent digestive symptoms, you need to see a gastroenterologist or your primary care physician. There could be underlying conditions that need proper medical evaluation. What I'm sharing with you today is information to help you make better choices and to potentially identify dietary factors that might be contributing to your symptoms. But this information is not a replacement for proper medical care. I also want to emphasize that everyone's digestive system is unique. What causes problems for one person might be perfectly fine for another. The key is learning to listen to your body. Pay attention to how you feel after eating certain foods. Keep a food journal if that helps. Notice patterns. Your body is constantly giving you information. Most of us just haven't learned how to listen to it. One more thing I want to address before we wrap up. Some of you might be thinking, but Dr. Brooks, if I eliminate all these things, what will I eat? Everything seems to have problems. I understand that concern, but here's the beautiful truth. When you start eating real whole foods, foods that humans have been eating for thousands of years before the modern processed food industry existed, you'll discover that eating can be simple, delicious, and nourishing. Fresh vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds, eggs, fish, meat from quality sources, and yes, real butter and olive oil. These foods don't come with confusing ingredient labels because they don't need labels. They are the ingredients. And here's something else I've noticed in my 20+ years of practice. When people transition away from processed foods and start eating real food, something remarkable happens. Their taste buds change. Foods that used to seem bland suddenly have depth and flavor. That's because processed foods are designed to be hyperpalatable, to hit your taste receptors so hard that real food seems boring by comparison. But give your palate a few weeks to reset, and you'll discover flavors and satisfaction you didn't know were possible. I've also found that when people start eating better, they often naturally start feeling better in other ways too. They sleep more soundly, their mood stabilizes, they have more consistent energy throughout the day, their skin improves, and they often find it easier to maintain a healthy weight. All of these benefits come not from some magic supplement or restrictive diet, but simply from giving your body the real, whole foods it was designed to process. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with this thought. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, collectively known as your microbiome. These bacteria aren't just passive residents. They're actively involved in digesting your food, producing vitamins, regulating your immune system, and even producing neurotransmitters that affect your mood and cognition. When you eat processed foods full of chemicals, artificial sweeteners, and additives, you're not feeding yourself. You're feeding those bacteria. And what you feed them determines which ones thrive and which ones diminish. Every meal is an opportunity to support the beneficial bacteria that keep you healthy or to feed the harmful bacteria that cause inflammation and disease. The choice is yours. And the good news is that your microbiome can change relatively quickly. Make better choices consistently for a few weeks to a few months, and your gut bacteria composition will shift toward a healthier balance. It's never too late to start making changes that will improve your health. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one item from your refrigerator that you now realize might be causing problems. Just one. Remove it for the next 6 weeks and replace it with a whole food alternative. Pay attention to how you feel. Keep a simple journal if that helps. And then come back and leave a comment telling me about your experience. I read every comment, and I'm genuinely interested in hearing about your journey toward better gut health. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with anyone you know who's been struggling with digestive issues. You might just change someone's life by sharing this information. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. where I'll continue sharing practical, science-based information to help you take control of your health. Remember, you have more power over your health than you might realize. It's not about genetics, bad luck, or just getting older. So much of how you feel is directly connected to what you put into your body. And now that you have this information, you can make informed choices that support your health instead of undermining it. Thank you so much for watching today. I know this was a lot of information, but I believe knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your health. Take what resonates with you from this video and start making changes at your own pace. Your gut will thank you, and I think you'll be amazed at how much better you can feel. Until next time, take care of yourself and that amazing gut of yours.